Hi, the PC I have was a hand down from my brother-in-law. He got deployed to Japan and he upgraded to a 4070 Ti and just bought a whole new set and shipped me this PC. He shipped it with the card inserted in the PC. When I connect and turn on the PC, it was giving me the white light, which he said it was the graphics card. He ran the computer and FaceTimed me before he said it and everything was working, but maybe in the shipping process, I don't know if the fitting or the actual graphics card is damaged. The fans turn on. It has the green light come on the graphics card. I was getting picture at first. It would run for like 10 or 15 minutes. Then the screen would go black. I can talk to him as much because him being in Japan, it's a 13-hour difference. And I do not know a lot about PC to figure out the problem, and this would be the first PC I ever had. He was the one that recommended this to me, and I have been watching your videos, and it seems like if anyone knows the problem, it would be you. Thank you for taking the time to read this. This is that viewer's broken gaming PC. Hey, how's it going? All right, we're just gonna go with that. Specs of this rig consist of an Intel Core i7 from either the 12th or 13th gen Intel lineups. This is a Z690 DDR4 motherboard, so it has to be 12th or 13th gen, and it's paired with 64 gigs of DDR4, which is a heck of a lot. In as much, we have an RTX 3070 Ti, it looks like a Ventus MSI card or something along those lines. So this is a fairly beefy system. It just, unfortunately, doesn't want to post. Shipping mishaps, unfortunately, are not unheard of in the PC space, so we might end up having to replace more than one component in here. Only time will tell. Are you ready? Stay with me. If you're sick of seeing that same Activate Windows watermark over and over, head on over to VIP SCD Key, where they have Windows 10 and 11 Pro OEM keys at a fraction of the price of retail. Just use a secure payment method like PayPal, enter your product key into your PC settings window, and say bye-bye to the watermark. And be sure to use our offer code SKGS for that sweet discount. Hey there! Welcome to Fix or Flop. This is some episode of Season 5, and in this playlist we attempt to fix viewer systems that are, well, they have to be broken to be fixed, right? For free. We don't charge anything for the service. As long as you are somewhat local to the Orlando, Florida area and you're willing to drive out to meet me, that's all we really ask. And if you're okay with us filming these processes, we can monetize these videos on sites like YouTube. That's how we make our money, and that's why we don't have to charge anyone who drops the system off. We don't even charge for replacement hardware because we have such good relationships with brands, and even if we have to dip into our own pockets, we're still usually profitable video over video, so it's not a big deal if we have to go out and buy something. And typically if we do buy something, it's because we don't have access to those components anymore because they aren't sold new, because they're older, and I don't know why I just bothered explaining all of this for like the 50th time, but if you're new, you're welcome. Now remember, with this build, apparently things power up, but we don't get a post, and I guess there's like a white light or something. I'm assuming that's a debug LED somewhere near the top of the board indicating that there's an issue with the GPU or the CPU, who really knows. One way to tell though is to fire it up for ourselves for the first time to get a nice baseline reading. So here we go. Bit of a delay, but otherwise looks to be running just fine out of the gate. I'm noticing that the fans aren't slowing down, which tells me that this probably isn't posting. We still don't have a picture on the screen, and we do have a white light, which, yes, is for VGA, AKA the graphics card. I really don't want to have to replace the 3070 Ti today, but it looks to be the direction we're headed. Yep, there she is, and it's just been stuck on this for a few minutes at this point, so I don't think we have much of a choice. We could try clearing the CMOS quickly. I'll show you how to do that, but I think we're gonna end up swapping this card out. If that fixes our problem, then that means we have a dead 3070 Ti. On this board in particular, we've got two pins labeled JBAT1. This is the battery junction for the CMOS. We're gonna jump these with our screwdriver for about 10 to 20 seconds as we'll cut power to the CMOS chip. And since it is volatile memory, that means that it will clear all the settings. It'll forget what it knew before, and then we can try powering on again. I don't expect this will fix the issue. Usually CMOS related issues are tied to the motherboard and the CPU. The graphics card is usually an isolated system, but it's worth a shot because it only takes about 10 seconds to do. Here we go, power on. Why is it always so delayed? It's like, it's got a 5-second delay built in. Bit strange, and it is, from the sound of it at least, behaving exactly the same way it was before. and looks like we're checking DRAM now. I didn't do that. Did that on its own. Look, folks, sometimes clearing the CMOS works wonders. It's why I always do it. It probably, again, won't work here, but it's just worth checking. Yeah, we're back to the white VGA light. So, power off, and it's time to swap cards. This is where a lot of folks are kind of gonna just be left stranded because most people don't just have extra graphics cards laying around, and well, conveniently, we have a few. So let's swap in one that's relatively low power and that we know works from a previous rig. How about our trusty XFX graphics card that I know so many of you desperately want? This thing is an absolute beast in games. Just kidding, no it's not. Don't buy this. Before we get ahead of ourselves, just a quick sanity check. I wanna make sure that things are connected properly before we go about swapping out the card. Like maybe is it slotted all the way into the PCIe slot? Are these custom cables, these are extensions actually, are these connected properly to the power supply? Let's check that now. Well, it does look like these are properly connected, but we're gonna bypass these custom cable extensions entirely just to rule them out. Second 8-pin going directly in this time, but as you can see, still no luck. Okay, now the card's coming out. Ooh, and just notice the clip at the back of this PCI slot is completely gone. That shouldn't affect the ability for the motherboard to detect the card, but it is worth noting this probably came off during shipping. Just another telltale sign that this might be bricked. Out she comes then, and we'll do a quick visual inspection. And well, not much you can see. Some of these newer cards here, they tend to hide the PCB fairly well, but I will say, especially around the golden fingers area, nothing to be all that concerned about. And I say that because during shipping, this area of a graphics card is stressed heavily. It tends to bend and flex with a lot of the just stresses of being tossed around by UPS, FedEx, DHL, etc., etc. They're all pretty bad about it in my experience. And so I wanted to make sure that we didn't see any cracking along the PCB. That could be an obvious reason why the card isn't posting. But so far so good. And in goes our trusty AMD XFX graphics card. And we'll try for a post. But maybe we should tighten this down. That sag a second ago was real. Well. We get a post, we load straight into Windows. It's as if the system is completely fine. Unfortunately, all we had to do was change out the graphics card, which is perhaps the most expensive component in this build. And it just goes to show you that when shipping, especially expensive builds like these, you need to make sure that you have these cards stable. They'll rock like crazy during shipping when these things are just tossed around in trucks and whatnot. These are probably some of the most fragile components in your rig, apart from maybe the CPU socket. So it looks like we're gonna have to replace this. And just in case you're wondering, this graphics card doesn't work in a totally separate known and working system as well. Still a black screen that you can see there, which means, well, our only chance here is to try to take this thing apart. Here we go. Now it looks like this card has never been opened. That's not too surprising. This is a 3070 Ti after all. This only came out, what, a couple years ago or so. So you can see our warranty void sticker there. I'm not concerned about taking this apart because it is already past its warranty period and the owner let me know of that. So we're going to start by removing the PCB from the large cooler assembly here. Then we'll get the back plate off.
A few moments later.
And finally, we can remove the back plate. So we have now just a bare PCB. We'll clean up the GPU and take a closer look at things. Just gonna give it a quick isopropyl alcohol bath. We've got it looking much cleaner now, and wow, I can tell you just from kind of glancing at these different components on the board, things look physically okay. Same goes for the back of the PCB, also pretty clean. How you doing? You know, now that I'm thinking about it, it's possible we might have a bad HDMI port. Now, if you have a perfectly good working card, like there's no problem with it, you connect it to your motherboard and you forget to connect your display cable, whether it be an HDMI cable or a DisplayPort one, you'll still get a white VGA debug LED. It's because the system isn't finding a way to send picture out. And so if we had a bad HDMI port, it would just assume there was nothing connected to it and it would give us the same LED. Now, it could be for a totally different reason. It could just be because the GPU is cooked, but it is worth checking, because if it is a bad HDMI port, I mean, if we could get around using that and just using DisplayPort, we still have 3 of those right here. So the card wouldn't be totally bricked and we wouldn't have to replace it if we could make that work. Just something to note, something we'll definitely try before just completely calling it quits on this thing. Just want to give you guys one final money shot. I don't see anything physically wrong again, but maybe you do. If you want to pause the video and give it a quick scan, that would be appreciated. Same goes for the backside here. Everything looks good. So, I mean, we could just try a different DisplayPort and maybe reassemble things. I mean, sometimes just repasting has fixed the issue before. It's worth a shot. Just gotta make sure we don't forget to repaste. Of course, going with trusty thermal grizzly cryonaut. Out she comes, eventually. There we go, a nice liberal amount. Here we are then, moment of truth. Now this is with the original HDMI cable. So again, we're gonna come back and check if this doesn't work, if the DisplayPort ports, is that how you say that? DisplayPort ports? I've always wondered. We'll check those after this if we still don't have a picture out. The fans in the card are spinning. It looks like it's getting power. But again, it's odd that, yeah, we're just stuck on the VGA light. It really doesn't like this card. But even hooked up to DisplayPort, still nothing. So we've just got a card that I can't fix here without maybe blasting it with heat, which I don't want to do because long-term, that's not really a solution, especially for a viewer. I want them to be up and running without issue. You know, the oven method, the bake method. Now I have actually seen it work before. We've even fixed cards temporarily before, but they never really seem to last. It's just not a chance I want to take with a viewer's rig. So the solution is going to be a GeForce RTX 4070 Ti Super. The name's a little long, the card's a little big, but it's definitely an upgrade, and well, this for sure works. It's brand new. Now this might not be the most loved card on planet Earth, but again, it is brand new. It does pack the newest features. It's fairly freaking efficient. It has 16 gigs of GDDR6X, so that's nice. Ooh la la. And one more. Oh, this is much, much smoother. Looking good. So in she goes then. Nice and easy. We even get a cute little prop to help fight graphics card sag, and it was much needed. Also notice this front RGB fan was not lighting up. It was spinning though, right Raymond? Was it spinning? Yeah, so it just didn't have any LEDs turned on, so I wanna make sure that these are wired up correctly. I think this might do the, okay, they're still off. I'm at a loss now. I'm not sure how we need to wire this. Oh, you know what? I think this here might, does that? Yes, there we go. All right, so RGB has been addressed. And here we are. Not much of a surprise that the system now works again. We confirmed that with our old XFX card, but this again is a brand new 4070 Ti Super, much newer card. It's definitely an upgrade form, and it works, which is the whole point. Really happy with the way this one turned out. We don't actually need to use the custom cable extensions he had running to the graphics card because we have to use that 12-pin, 12 volt, I should say, high power splitter that's included with the card. And so I'll just give these back to him to use. And then same goes for the bracket. We have our own bracket from the Tough Box, but this one from MSI he might want to reuse in a different rig. So we'll give this back to him as well. The old card, however, the broken 3070 Ti, I'm gonna keep that because I wanna see if I can fix it using some unorthodox strategies. An unfortunate turn of events then, a dead graphics card is probably one of the worst case scenarios. Maybe not from a time perspective when it comes to actually troubleshooting, but it's one of the more costly components in a build in most cases. And so, yeah, not every day we can replace a card like this with something of greater value, but again, we did have that one laying around and I wanna make sure that he's up and running for years to come, hopefully, and doing something like blasting the 3070 Ti with hot air in hopes that the GPU or the memory gets reballed for X amount of time. It's not a permanent fix in my book, and I wanna make sure that, again, he's got a system that actually works and isn't on the brink of breaking again. The last thing I want is for a rig I supposedly fixed to end up back in the studio like 2 weeks later. Now, I'm sure I'll see a comment or two along the lines of, well, you should have upgraded X or you should have upgraded Y. The case, for example, doesn't have great airflow really at all. It's quite loud. We could probably tweak some BIOS settings, but I don't wanna tinker with stuff that isn't inherently breaking the system, and I will do my best to address this with the owner when we meet up to drop the system back off. We replaced the card, we upgraded him in fact in the process, and that to me is a job well done. Thank you all so much for watching this one. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That's a huge help. If you have not subscribed already, just click that red button to see more videos like this. If you just want to follow along, maybe you already know all of these troubleshooting steps. Maybe it's just a nice refresher for you, or you enjoy seeing me occasionally make a fool of myself. All of that I'm sure will be in fairly large doses here in the next few videos, so stick around for that. And be sure to leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought was wrong with the system. Although I imagine most of you are probably on the right track since we had a cheat code with that VGA debug LED. For now though, it's time to package this thing back up, throw it in the car, and get it back to its owner. Again, thank you so much for watching, and thanks for learning with me.